It started with a compliment. "You have kind eyes," she said. Her name was Dana. New to the office, transferred from another branch. She was quiet, awkward in a way that wasn't immediately obvious, like someone who rehearsed small talk in the mirror. People said she was sweet, a little off, but harmless. The compliment caught me off guard. I was heating up my lunch in the break room when she said it. I laughed it off, said something like, "Thanks, I guess," and went back to scrolling on my phone. But after that, she kept finding reasons to talk to me. In the hallway, at the copier, on Slack. Always something weirdly personal. One time she said, "That blue shirt really brings out your soul." Another time, it was, "I saw you park this morning. You look so peaceful just sitting there." And one time when she saw me in the elevator, she said, "You don't talk much. I like that. It means you think deeply." I tried to be polite, smiled and nodded and gave short answers. I figured she was just lonely. Then she started showing up outside of work. I'd be grabbing groceries and see her 3 aisles over, pretending to examine cereal boxes. One night I was out for a run and saw her standing near the path, just watching. When I slowed down to catch my breath, she waved, like it was totally normal. "Hey, what a coincidence," she said. After the 4th coincidence, I stopped being polite. "Why are you following me?" I asked outside a gas station one night. She blinked and tilted her head. "I'm not," she said. "I think we're just connected, spiritually." I went home that night and locked every window. The next day, I found a note on my windshield. It read, "You don't have to be afraid. I would never hurt you. I just want to be close." I reported her to HR. They gave her a warning, said they couldn't do more unless things escalated. I quit 2 weeks later, but she didn't stop. I blocked her number, deleted my social media, moved to a new apartment across town. Still, I'd catch glimpses, someone with her hair on a bench across the street, or in line behind me at the coffee shop. Once, I swear I saw her reflection in a train window. I turned around. No one there. The worst part? She never looked angry, never seemed vengeful, just devoted, like I was the center of her universe. One night, I came home and found my door unlocked. Nothing stolen, nothing broken. But there, on my kitchen table, was a slice of lemon cake on a paper plate. My birthday was the next day. I started sleeping with a knife beside the bed. One morning, there was another note slipped under my door. It read, "You can run, but I'll always know where you are, because you matter." I called the police. They came, took a report, said they couldn't prove it was her, that unless she made a threat, there wasn't much they could do. "She baked me a cake and broke into my apartment," I said. The officer just shrugged. Still not enough. I didn't sleep that night, or the night after. Then, last Friday, I came home and found every mirror in my apartment covered in newspaper. She'd been inside again. On one of the mirrors, under the paper, she'd scrawled something in lipstick. It read, "I don't like the way you look at yourself. You should see what I see." That was the moment I snapped. I looked up her address online, drove to her apartment, and pounded on the door. No answer. I peered through the window. Inside were dozens of pictures of me. Some taken at work, some from a distance, some from inside my apartment. She'd printed them out and taped them all over her walls. Around them, hearts, scribbled words, my name repeated like a chant. I called the cops again. This time, they took it seriously. They put out a warrant, said she'd vanished. That was 3 days ago. Tonight, I got home to find my apartment door open, though I knew I'd locked it. I stepped inside to silence. Then I noticed it. The smell. Vanilla and something else, coppery. I turned on the light. On the living room wall, written in what I pray was red paint, were the words, "I just want to be part of your life, one way or another." I reported it to the police, but they still haven't found her. I haven't turned off the lights since. Haven't slept. I know she's still out there, watching, waiting, loving me in a way no one ever should. I always thought the scariest part of life was failing. Turns out, getting everything you ever wanted can be worse. It started 2 months ago when I was promoted to regional manager. I'd been working at Argotech for 5 years, showing up early, staying late, sacrificing weekends like clockwork. I earned it, or so I told myself. But I wasn't the only one chasing that position. Paul had been with the company for nearly 8 years. Seniority, yes. Leadership qualities? Not exactly. He was sharp, but intense. He always had this edge about him, like he was trying not to scream in every meeting. Still, I never thought of him as a threat. Not really. When the announcement was made, Paul wasn't in the room. Word was he found out in a company email and stormed out. Left his laptop on his desk and never returned. No goodbye. No exit interview. Just silence. Until last night. It was 10:47 p.m. when I left the office. End of quarter. Paperwork, late calls, headaches. I was the last car in the lot. The air was heavy with humidity and the overhead lamps buzzed like dying insects. I hit the key fob and started walking toward my car, thinking about nothing but sleep. That's when I saw him. Paul. Leaning against my driver's side door like he'd been waiting there for hours. Same gray windbreaker he always wore. Same twitch in his jaw when he smiled. "You're working late, boss," he said. I froze, keys in hand. "Paul, what are you doing here?" I asked. "Had to see it for myself," he said. "Wanted to see the look in your eyes, the moment you realized everything you took from me." I glanced around. Empty lot, no security. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I didn't dare break eye contact. His stare was a dead thing, flat, cold, but burning beneath the surface. "I didn't take anything from you, Paul," I said slowly. "I got the promotion. I'm sorry it worked out that way." He chuckled, low and strange. Then he said, "You think this is about a title? A freaking office with a window? You think I care about the stupid plaque on your desk?" I stepped back, casually trying to move toward the office doors again. "I gave them everything," he said, his voice cracking. "And they gave it to you, the golden boy, the one who knew how to smile in meetings." His tone shifted suddenly, calmer, too calm. "I lost everything for this job, Mike," he said. "My marriage, my sanity, and now you walk out of here every night like a king." "I'm just trying to get home, Paul," I replied. He stood up straight, reached into his jacket pocket. My stomach flipped. He pulled out a small photograph, torn at the corners. He held it up under the flickering light. "My daughter drew this for me the day before she left with her mother," he whispered. "She said, 'Daddy, stop working so much. You're gonna disappear.'" He stared at it for a long moment, then looked at me again. "She was right," he said. I didn't know what to say. There was nothing I could say. I just stood there, heartbeat hammering in my chest. Then he walked closer, too close. His breath smelled sour and metallic, like he hadn't eaten anything but rage for days. "I sit in my apartment now," he said. "Lights off. No TV. Just the sound of the clock ticking. And I think about you. I imagine how you must have smiled when they announced your name, like it was all just a game you won. I didn't know you were in that much pain, Paul, I said, my voice trembling. He leaned in, his lips almost touching my ear. I thought he was about to say something. But then, he backed away, walked slowly toward the edge of the lot, his shoes echoing like footsteps in a mausoleum. He turned once before disappearing into the shadows. "Enjoy your throne, Mike," he called out. "But don't forget, it's built on bones. Stay safe. Lots of crazy people out there. Wouldn't want you to get hurt." I stood there in silence long after he vanished. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped my keys twice before I could open the car door. That night, I didn't sleep. I just kept replaying his words, the look in his eyes, the way his voice cracked when he talked about his daughter. And the worst part? I don't think that was a threat. I think it was a promise. Now every time I step into that parking lot, I look over my shoulder. I leave the office earlier. I take different routes home. I check under my car before getting in. And sometimes I see him, just in the corner of my vision, waiting, watching, smiling. It started with a joke, a stupid, harmless joke. We were at the company Christmas party, held at one of those rooftop lounges downtown. Red lights, tacky sweaters, spiked eggnog. The whole office showed up, even the interns. Everyone was in high spirits, drunk on bonuses and brandy. That's when I saw her. I found out later her name was Emily. She was standing under a string of mistletoe, laughing at something someone said. Hair curled, cheeks flushed from the cold. She looked stunning, radiant in a red dress that sparkled every time she moved. And right beside her stood Mark, her husband, and my coworker. Mark was one of those guys who always looked like he was sucking on a lemon. Quiet, tense, not unfriendly exactly, but there was always something coiled in him, just below the surface. I'd had a few drinks. That's my excuse anyway. I walked up, smiled at Emily, and said, "So mistletoe, huh? Dangerous spot to stand when you look like that." She laughed, not a polite chuckle, a real delighted laugh. Mark looked pissed. I saw the way his jaw clenched, the way his hand tightened around his glass. But he didn't say anything, not then. Just stood there watching. I thought that was the end of it, but it wasn't. The next week, things got weird. I'd be walking down the hall and feel someone behind me. Turn around, no one there. I'd left my coffee on my desk one morning to go to a quick meeting. When I got back, it tasted different, like metal. I dumped it after one sip. Then came the notes, folded slips of paper left on my desk. No name, just messages. One read, "She's not yours." Another one read, "You don't know who you're playing with." And a third one read, "Watch your back." I tried to laugh it off, told myself it was a prank. Office politics, maybe. But deep down, I knew it was Mark, so I did my best to avoid him. Then came that Thursday night. I'd stayed late trying to catch up on year-end reports. The office was empty, dark, except for the buzzing overhead fluorescence above my cubicle. Outside, a sleet storm tapped against the windows like fingernails. Around 11:15, I stood up, stretched, and headed to the men's room. It was silent inside. I walked past the sinks, stepped into a stall, and locked the door. That's when the lights went out. Not all the way, just enough to dim the room into a sickly half-shadow. I froze, heard the door creak open, footsteps, slow and deliberate, hard soles against the tile floor. "Hello?" I called out. No answer, just breathing right outside the stall door. Then came the whisper. A voice said, "You think she smiled at you because she liked you?" My blood turned to ice. The voice continued. You think she meant it? It was Mark. I didn't even have to look. That voice had enough venom to strip paint. You don't know what she does, he said. You don't know what I do. You think you're some charming little office flirt that you can say things like that and walk away clean? I didn't say a word. I just held my breath and prayed he couldn't hear my heart pounding. You touched something that doesn't belong to you, he said, voice tight with rage. And I've taken things from men for less. Something slid against the door. A soft, metallic scrape. Was it a knife? My legs locked. I was sweating despite the cold. I know where you live, he continued. I've been there. I've seen you come and go. I know what you drive, what time you leave in the morning. I know where your bedroom is. He paused. Then he said, you leave your blinds open, you know. Sometimes I watch you sleep. I almost vomited. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely keep quiet. Then silence, nothing but the distant hum of the building's heat ducts. I waited, maybe 10 seconds, maybe 10 minutes. I don't know. When I finally opened the stall door, he was gone. No footsteps, no voice. Just the mirror above the sinks and the faint scent of winter cologne. I didn't go home that night. I went to a hotel, filed a report with HR the next morning. They said there was no proof, that it sounded like a personal misunderstanding. Mark denied everything, of course. Said I was making it up because I was embarrassed about flirting with his wife. That I was overreacting. They closed the case, but I know what I heard. I moved a week later, changed my number, and got a new job in another city. And still, some nights I wake up to the sound of footsteps outside my window. Just faint enough to make me question it.